Winter in Boston brings early darkness. From her hospital bed on the 5th floor, Judith Walker watched the city lights flicker on one by one through the wide window pane. The twilight sky deepened into indigo, then violet, and finally melted into blackness. Beyond the glass, snow began to fall again, soft flakes dissolving against the cold. Inside the quiet room, the steady beeping of a heart monitor was the only sound. Judith turned a page in the magazine she had been holding, but her mind wasn't on the words. Her ribs ached every time she shifted, and both legs, encased in plaster casts, throbbed dully under the blanket. A gentle knock broke the silence. The door opened before she could answer. "Still reading? That's not good for your eyes," her mother's voice said sharply. Martha Walker stepped in as if entering a boardroom rather than a hospital room. Every inch of her appearance was polished, her blonde hair perfectly styled, her pearl necklace gleaming against a tailored tweed suit. Even here, amid the antiseptic air and plain walls, she looked expensive. "It's work manuscripts, Mom," Judith said, forcing a small smile. "I can't just lie here all day." "Always working," Martha sighed. "That's so like you. But I didn't come to discuss work. We need to talk about Lauren's wedding." Behind her came Harold Walker, Judith's father. His stride was brisk, his expression unreadable, his suit immaculate. He had always been the image of control, precise, successful, and emotionally distant. "I heard from the doctor you'll be discharged in 2 weeks," he said without greeting. Judith nodded slightly. "Yes, but recovery will take months. I'll still need physical therapy." "That's good enough," Harold said. "Lauren's wedding is in 3 weeks. You'll make it in time." Judith blinked, unsure she'd heard correctly. "You must be joking. I'll still be in a wheelchair. My concussion isn't healed, and I can barely sit upright for more than an hour." "But darling," Martha protested, "it's your sister's special day. It's your duty as family to be there." Judith's voice softened but stayed firm. "I want to celebrate her, but the doctor said I need rest." Her father's brow furrowed. "A broken bone is an excuse for weakness. When I was young, I went back to work on crutches the next day after I broke my leg." Judith looked toward the ceiling, her lips pressed together. Every conversation with them followed the same pattern: judgment, pressure, dismissal. When it came to Lauren, reason never mattered. Lauren, the golden child. The beautiful one, the sociable one, the one their parents paraded through life like a prized trophy. While Judith stayed home studying, Lauren collected admiration effortlessly. Now, at 30, she was a rising attorney in a powerful law firm, engaged to Bradley Harrison, heir to one of Chicago's most prestigious families. For Martha and Harold, this was the crowning jewel of all their ambitions. "Bradley's family has strong political and financial ties," Martha continued, eyes bright with excitement. "The guest list includes senators, judges, even a governor. It would look terrible if you weren't there." "I think my health is more important than appearances," Judith said quietly. "Listen, Judith," Harold leaned forward, his tone turning cold and instructional. "You've always done things your own way: college, career, lifestyle. You put yourself before family. But this time, you will attend. This is about Lauren, not you." Judith closed her eyes. The dull ache in her ribs flared with every breath. 2 weeks ago, she had been driving home from a meeting when another car, running a red light, smashed into her side. The driver had fled the scene. The police were still searching. Sometimes she could still hear the screech of tires, the shattering of glass, the world turning upside down. "Fine," she whispered finally. "I'll do what I can, but only with my doctor's approval." Martha's lips curled into a satisfied smile. "That's my girl. Of course. Try not to stand out too much. A wheelchair would look awkward in the photos." "And," Harold added, "prepare a small speech for the ceremony, something flattering for Bradley's parents." Judith didn't reply. She only turned her face toward the window again, where snow continued to drift down. She wondered when her life had begun revolving around her parents' expectations, and why she still felt the need to obey. After they left, the room returned to stillness. The scent of her mother's perfume lingered in the air like a ghost. Moments later, Nurse Becky entered with a cup of tea and an encouraging smile. "Your parents gone?" "Yes," Judith said softly. "We discussed my sister's wedding." "Oh," Becky frowned. glancing at Judith's casts. I hope you told them it's impossible. Judith gave a tired smile. You don't understand. In my family, impossible doesn't exist, only unacceptable. The wedding day. 3 weeks later. The winter sky was gray and heavy. The hospital hallway echoed with the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. A navy blue dress hung on the chair beside Judith's bed, simple but elegant. Becky helped her slip it on carefully, layer by layer, adjusting the fabric to cover the casts as best as she could. Are you really sure about this? Becky asked, her voice low. Doctor Simon said no travel. I don't have a choice, Judith murmured. My father's coming to get me. Becky sighed but said nothing more. She fixed Judith's hair gently, tucking a strand behind her ear. You're brave, she whispered. Judith smiled faintly. No, just used to it. The door swung open sharply. Harold entered, checking his watch. We're leaving. Are you ready? Mr. Walker, Becky said firmly. Your daughter needs to move slowly. She's still in pain. I didn't ask for your opinion, Harold snapped, taking control of the wheelchair. We're late. Judith bit her lip as the wheelchair jolted down the corridor. Every bump sent pain shooting up her legs. Dad, careful. You're exaggerating, he said, dismissive. You can endure a little discomfort. It's your sister's big day. By the time they reached the car, Judith was sweating from pain. The cold air bit at her cheeks as Harold helped, forced, her into the passenger seat. Hurry, he said. We're not delaying this wedding because of you. The drive to the downtown hotel was silent except for the hum of the heater. Harold's phone buzzed with messages, likely from Martha or Lauren. Judith stared out at the falling snow, watching the city glide past. Lauren's nervous, Harold finally said. She'll be glad you came. She's always admired your independence. Judith gave a quiet laugh. If you say so. When they arrived at the hotel, staff were already waiting, but the entrance to the ballroom had a short staircase, no ramp. How'd I get up? Judith asked, frustrated. Harold didn't even look back. Figure it out, he said and disappeared inside. Judith sat alone at the bottom of the stairs, humiliated, until a warm voice interrupted. Need a hand? She turned. A tall man in a dark suit smiled down at her. He looked familiar, his eyes kind, his demeanor calm. I'm Michael Harrison, he said as he gently lifted her wheelchair onto the steps. Bradley's cousin. Judith Walker, the bride's sister, she replied, embarrassed but grateful. I wasn't told you were in this condition, Michael said as he guided her through the grand doorway. What were your parents thinking? Judith gave a weary half smile. Family duty. The hall was radiant, crystal chandeliers, white roses, and a string quartet playing softly. Guests turned as Judith entered, whispers spreading like ripples. She could feel their gazes, some sympathetic, others judgmental. Martha hurried over, her expression tight. Judith, why are you so late? Everyone's staring. Couldn't you sit somewhere less visible? Mom, Judith said calmly. I'm Lauren's sister. I belong here. Before Martha could argue, Michael stepped forward. I'll take care of her, Mrs. Walker. Reluctantly, Martha nodded and retreated. As Michael wheeled Judith toward the family seats near the front, the music shifted. Everyone rose. Lauren entered on Harold's arm, radiant in her gown, ivory silk, a glittering veil, her smile dazzling. Cameras flashed. Guests sighed in admiration. Judith sat quietly, her heart heavy. Lauren looked flawless, yet Judith couldn't shake the image of that night, the blinding headlights, the screech of metal, the pain. The driver had never been found. Not yet. The ballroom shimmered under the soft glow of chandeliers. Crystal lights danced across polished marble floors, and delicate music floated through the air like a dream. Guests turned as Lauren, radiant in her white gown, walked down the aisle, every inch the perfect image of a bride. Her smile was effortless, her steps graceful. To everyone present, it was a flawless ceremony. But behind the rows of elegant guests sat Judith, her smile faint and practiced, masking the pain that pulsed through her legs. Beneath the long dress draped over her wheelchair, her bandaged knee throbbed, a silent reminder of the accident that had nearly claimed her life just 2 weeks earlier. She had insisted on coming, telling herself it was her duty as a sister. When Lauren and Bradley exchanged vows, Judith forced herself to clap, even as her chest tightened. The crowd erupted in joy as the officiant declared, "You may now kiss the bride." Flashbulbs went off, laughter filled the air, and for a moment, it seemed like the world had forgotten her entirely. The reception that followed was held in the hotel's grand ballroom. Champagne glasses clinked, waiters wove between tables with trays of hors d'oeuvres, and guests floated from one conversation to another. Judith sat quietly near a corner, her wheelchair discreetly placed away from the main dance floor. Michael, her colleague and the one who had been by her side during her recovery, bent down beside her. "Can I get you something to drink?" he asked gently. Judith smiled faintly. "Thank you, but I can't have alcohol with my medication. Just some water, please." Michael nodded and disappeared into the crowd. Moments later, the master of ceremonies took the stage with a wide grin. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced into the microphone, "while you enjoy your meals, we'll hear some congratulatory messages for the newlyweds." One by one, family and friends stood up. The groom's father spoke first, followed by college friends who shared funny stories that drew laughter from the crowd. Judith listened quietly, her hands clasped in her lap. Then, unexpectedly, the MC's voice rang out again. "And now, a toast from the bride's sister, Judith Walker." Judith froze, her eyes widened in confusion. No one had told her she'd be speaking. Across the room, she saw her parents, Martha and Harold, exchange uneasy glances. They looked as startled as she was, or perhaps guilty. The crowd applauded encouragingly. Michael had just returned, and before Judith could protest, he gently pushed her wheelchair toward the center of the room. Her pulse quickened. She wanted to refuse, to disappear, but Michael placed a steadying hand on her shoulder, his calm gaze telling her, "You can do this." Judith took a deep breath and faced the microphone. Hundreds of eyes were on her. Her hands trembled slightly, but she found her voice. "Hello, everyone," she began softly. "I'm surprised by this sudden request." The crowd chuckled lightly. "Actually, I'm still hospitalized after a traffic accident 2 weeks ago, but I couldn't miss my sister's special day. I was taught that family celebrates together, no matter the circumstances." The audience fell silent, moved by her composure. A wave of sympathetic applause followed. Judith's eyes flicked toward her parents. Martha was smiling, but there was no warmth in her expression, only irritation hidden behind the facade. "My sister Lauren," Judith continued, her voice stronger now, "has always been the star of our family. Her beauty, her confidence, her success, they've always inspired me, and today, she's found a wonderful partner in Bradley." Lauren smiled tightly beside her husband, but as the crowd's attention shifted to Judith, admiring her strength, her courage, Lauren's expression began to harden. Jealousy clouded her features. "Bradley," Judith said, turning to the groom, "please take care of my sister, and Lauren, I truly hope you'll be happy, as your sister, and as your family. I wish you all the love this world can offer." The room erupted in applause. Some guests even stood, touched by her sincerity. Bradley's mother, Barbara, wiped away tears. But as Michael pushed Judith back toward her seat, Lauren stepped forward, blocking their path. Her eyes burned with anger. "Judith," she hissed under her breath, "we need to talk." Before anyone could intervene, Lauren grabbed Judith's wheelchair and guided her toward a quiet hallway. Bradley followed, confused, while Michael stayed close, his protective instincts sharp. As soon as they were alone, Lauren exploded. "You did that on purpose. At my wedding, you made everyone feel sorry for you." Judith blinked in disbelief. "Lauren, I just congratulated you." "Don't lie to me," Lauren snapped, her voice rising. "You've always done this, always found a way to steal my moment." Guests nearby began whispering. Bradley reached for her arm. "Lauren, stop. People are looking." "Let them look," she shouted. "They should see how manipulative she is." Before the argument could spiral further, Michael calmly pulled out his phone. "I think I should record this," he said evenly. Lauren froze. "What? Why?" "Because," Michael said, his eyes narrowing, "it's time the truth came out. You see, I'm a lawyer and I've been investigating a recent hit-and-run accident." Judith's breath caught. The air in the hallway grew heavy. Michael continued, 2 weeks ago, a car ran a red light and struck another vehicle. I witnessed it myself. I reported the license plate, and just yesterday, I found that the same car was being repaired at a shop owned by Bradley's family. Gasps spread through the onlookers. Lauren's face drained of color. What are you implying? Martha demanded, pushing her way through the small crowd that had gathered. I'm saying, Michael said slowly, that the driver was Lauren Walker. She caused the accident and fled the scene. The world seemed to stop. Bradley turned toward his bride, his voice shaking. Lauren, is that true? Tears filled Lauren's eyes. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to talk to her. I panicked. Judith's voice trembled. You saw me on the ground, bleeding, and you just drove away? I was scared. Lauren cried. If anyone found out, it would ruin everything. Bradley stepped back, his face ashen. You already have. Slowly, he removed his wedding ring and set it on the table beside him. Martha and Harold stood frozen, their carefully maintained image of a perfect family collapsing before their eyes. Call the police, Bradley's father said firmly. As officers arrived, Lauren's cries echoed down the hallway. Judith sat silently in her wheelchair, her emotions swirling, grief, anger, and an unfamiliar sense of release. Years of being overshadowed, dismissed, and silenced had led to this moment of truth. Michael leaned close. You're free now, he whispered. Judith exhaled, tears finally escaping her eyes. Free and finally seen. When the ambulance took her back to the hospital later that night, Barbara rode along, holding Judith's hand. You were brave today, she said softly, braver than anyone else in that room. As the city lights blurred past the window, Judith watched them fade into the night. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel small or forgotten. She felt alive and ready to rebuild her life from the wreckage her family had left behind. And as the siren wailed softly in the distance, Judith closed her eyes and whispered, I'm finally free.